In the spring of 2023, 13 wild bison from Yellowstone National Park stepped off a trailer onto the Rosebud Sioux Reservation in South Dakota. They stood still for a moment, sniffed the wind, then they walked. Within 48 hours, they were wallowing. A wallow is what happens when a bison rolls its full body weight, 900 kilograms, into the ground and spins. The animal does it to dislodge parasites. What it leaves behind is a circular depression roughly 2 meters across, pressed deep into the topsoil, the surface crust broken, the soil aerated and reshaped, dung and bacteria worked into the ground. It's also the most effective prairie restoration tool that exists. No biologist designed it. The 13 Yellowstone bison arrived on 27,000 acres of native prairie that had been grazed by cattle for over a century. The native warm-season grasses, big bluestem and switchgrass, had been replaced almost entirely by invasive species. The land was technically alive. Ecologically, it was a shell. Within a single growing season, aerial drone surveys from South Dakota State University were measuring something that nobody had projected would happen this fast. No one told the bison to wallow in those specific spots. No one told them which routes to walk, or how far to move each day, or what the land underneath them still knew how to do. They had been born inside Yellowstone and treated as wildlife from the moment they were caught. No training, no conditioning, no map. No one told them to do any of this. What they did anyway, and how fast the land responded, is the reason ecologists are still trying to understand what they measured. The prairie where those 13 bison arrived had not held a wild bison in over a century. Before 1884, the same grassland was part of one of the largest ecosystems on Earth. Early European explorers estimated 60 million bison on the North American plains at any given time. A single herd crossing the Platte River could take 3 days to pass a fixed point on the bank. The Lakota Nation had lived alongside them for 10,000 years, following the herds, taking what their families needed, and using every part of the animal. The relationship between the Lakota and the bison had shaped the prairie itself. Lakota land use, including controlled burns and selective hunting, kept the soil chemistry and plant composition in a state that produced bison the way a healthy orchard produces fruit. Then came the railroads. Between 1870 and 1884, what is now considered the most rapid extermination of any large mammal in recorded history took place across the northern plains. Buffalo hunters killed for hides and tongues. Soldiers shot from train windows for sport. General Philip Sheridan told Congress the strategy openly. He said killing the bison was the fastest way to break the plains tribes because without the herds, the reservations would hold. By 1884, a federal census found 23 free-roaming bison left on the entire continent. All of them were inside what would become Yellowstone National Park. The Lakota, confined to reservations carved from their original territory, watched their keystone species disappear inside a single generation. Most people who had grown up in lodges of buffalo hide were still alive when the last wild herd became a museum exhibit. The prairie that remained had no bison, no Lakota land management, and no mechanism to restore what had taken thousands of years to build. The government tried to find one anyway. For 2 decades, it got nowhere. By 2000, Yellowstone's bison herd had grown from 23 animals to just under 5,000, the largest genetically pure, free-roaming bison population in the world. The same agencies that spent a century rebuilding the herd were now spending millions of dollars a year killing it. The problem was brucellosis. Yellowstone bison carry it at low rates. Cattle are vulnerable to it. Montana ranchers, backed by the state legislature, demanded that any bison crossing the park boundary be killed or shipped to slaughter. Through the early 2000s, federal agents were rounding up between 500 and 1,000 bison every winter at the Stevens Creek capture facility and sending most of them to commercial meat packers. Tribal nations had been watching those trucks leave Stevens Creek for years. In 1992, leaders from 19 tribal nations formed the Intertribal Buffalo Council with one mission: to bring bison back onto tribal land. The Buffalo Council began organizing across the continent. By 2024, membership had grown to 76 nations across 20 states, managing a combined herd of more than 25,000 animals. But almost every bison available to those nations carried cattle DNA from crossbreeding going back to the early 1900s. The genetically pure herd, the Yellowstone animals, was the one going to slaughter. Yellowstone animals were the ones being targeted. For 2 decades, tribal leaders petitioned the National Park Service to transfer those bison to tribes instead of meat packers. They were turned down each time. No brucellosis quarantine protocol existed for bison. Cattle had a pathway through federal health regulations. Bison did not. That stalemate held until 2016. When it finally broke, 15 years of preparation on the Rosebud Sioux Reservation were already waiting. The Rosebud Economic Development Corporation, REDCO, had been working toward this since 2007. Over 15 years, partnering with the World Wildlife Fund, they acquired roughly 27,000 acres of native prairie on the reservation and converted it from cattle land into bison habitat. Fences came down, water infrastructure went in, cattle were sold. The land was named the Ecological Buffalo Range. In 2016, the National Park Service and 2 tribal nations built the first dedicated bison brucellosis quarantine facility in the United States. The protocol was slow but workable. A bison entering the program had to test negative 3 times over a minimum of 2 years before transfer. The Bison Conservation Transfer Program had moved more than 400 Yellowstone animals into tribal hands by the end of 2024. In 2020, the Dakota Range received its first 100 bison, drawn from conservation herds across the West, not Yellowstone. It was a starting population while the Yellowstone animals cleared quarantine. The Yellowstone bison that arrived in March 2023 were different from anything the range had held before. They were not handled, not ear-tagged, not familiar with humans. Born inside the park, treated as wildlife from the day they were caught. They had no experience of fences, no learned dependence on supplemental feeding, no conditioning from years of managed captivity. Their behavior on the prairie, researchers would find, reflected something that had been accumulating in the Yellowstone herd for over a century of running wild. They stepped down the ramp, they sniffed the wind, they walked into 27,000 acres of prairie that had not held wild bison in over a century. The drone surveys were already scheduled. The soil sampling equipment was ready. The question was whether the researchers would see what the models predicted, or something they had not. The first thing researchers documented was the wallows. A wild bison wallows differently from a managed or hybridized animal. The Yellowstone bison, born wild, never conditioned, rolled with the frequency and force of animals that had been doing this across unbroken prairie for thousands of years. Each wallow left a circular depression roughly 2 meters across, the surface crust broken, the soil aerated and reshaped. Here is what a wallow actually does to a grassland. It holds water on a prairie that would otherwise shed rainfall across compacted soil. A wallow creates a pool, temporary and shallow, exactly the right depth for the germination of specific native plant species. It breaks the soil crust that decades of cattle hooves had pressed into near concrete. It creates microhabitats with moisture retention, soil chemistry, and light exposure that native prairie plants require to establish. A single wallow can support dozens of plant species that will not grow on undisturbed surface. Aerial drone surveys from South Dakota State University, flown within the first growing season, showed a measurable expansion of native warm-season grasses, big bluestem, and switchgrass in the areas where the wild bison concentrated. The invasive cool-season species, primarily smooth brome, began losing ground. Soil samples showed a roughly 15% increase in carbon sequestration in the bison-grazed areas compared to neighboring cattle pastures, consistent with findings from the American Prairie Reserve in Montana. Native birds began nesting in the wallow scrapes. Western meadowlarks, grasshopper sparrows, burrowing owls, all recorded breeding in areas that had been uniform cattle pasture the year before. One growing season, no planting, no seeding, no restoration program. 13 bison doing what their species has always done, in soil that still knew how to respond, and the wallows were only one part of it. The second thing that surprised the research team was how far the Yellowstone bison moved. A commercial or long-managed bison will graze a paddock relatively uniformly, staying within fenced areas without much prompting. The Yellowstone animals refused to stay put. Even with adequate seasonal grass available, they walked 4 to 6 miles a day, the same rotational movement their ancestors used before fences fragmented the plains. That distance matters. When grazing pressure spreads thin enough, no single area gets overeaten. Trampling works seeds and dung into the soil along the herd's route, creating a planting mechanism that follows their movement. The land doesn't just get grazed, it gets worked section by section in the same pattern the prairie ecosystem evolved to run on. By the second spring, the original cohort had produced over 40 calves, born on the Ecological range, native to soil they would never leave. The water table in parts of the range had started to rise, a result soil scientists had projected was possible over decades, not within 2 years. One of the project's leaders told reporters the strangest part was how quickly the prairie remembered. The bison knew what to do. The grass knew what to do. The only thing that had to be unlearned, he said, was the assumption that humans needed to be in charge. In the same year those 40 calves were born, the National Park Service sent roughly 900 Yellowstone bison to commercial slaughter. Same species, same genetics, same Yellowstone herd. The animals the National Park Service sent to commercial slaughter in 2023, roughly 900 of them, under the same brucellosis management policy that has been in place for 40 years, were genetically identical to the 13 rebuilding a prairie in South Dakota. The difference between them was a quarantine certificate and a transfer agreement. The Bison Conservation Transfer Program had already proven the model by the time those trucks left Stevens Creek. The drone survey data from South Dakota State University had been published. The carbon sequestration numbers, the native grass recovery rates, and the bird species nesting in wallow scrapes that had not existed the previous year were all documented, sourced, peer-reviewed, and verifiable. Tribal nations with the land, the ecological knowledge, and 15 years of preparation were waiting in a queue. The legislation to expand the transfer program had been blocked, slowed, or watered down at every congressional session since 2016, primarily by representatives from Montana cattle districts. I have read through a lot of this policy history. There is no version of it that makes the 900 number look like a rational conservation decision when you set it next to the Ecological data. I do not know how you hold both things in your head at once. I am not sure the people running the policy do either. What the Ecological range has shown with peer-reviewed data in a single growing season is that the prairie is not gone. The knowledge of how to restore it exists inside the animals that built it, and inside the people who managed it for 10,000 years. Put those two things back together, even at a fraction of the original scale, and the land moves faster than the models say it should. The bison knew what to do. The grass knew what to do. In the spring of 2023, 13 wild bison stepped off a trailer, sniffed the wind, and within 48 hours, they were wallowing. By the second spring, there were 40 calves. Native warm-season grasses were expanding into former cattle pasture. Birds were nesting in wallow depressions that had not existed the year before. The water table was rising. A range pushed to its agricultural limits for a century was rebuilding itself in ways that surprised the people hired to model it. The Ecological Buffalo Range today holds over 1,000 bison. The Lakota Nation is hunting them again for the first time in generations. The prairie is following. What this story demonstrates beyond the Rosebud Reservation is that the Great Plains grassland, one of the most ecologically degraded biomes on Earth, with the majority of its original area converted to agriculture over the past 150 years, has not forgotten what it was. The ecological memory is in the soil. The restoration knowledge is in the animals. And in 15 years of preparation by a tribal nation that watched the trucks leave Stevens Creek every winter and decided to do something about it. That's what this channel covers every week. The experiments where the result outran the prediction. Subscribe if you want one every week. There's already one waiting. Next time, a species that was down to fewer than 50 individuals in a single location on a steppe most people could not find on a map. A decade-long effort to understand why the population kept collapsing, and the year the numbers finally moved in the right direction.